Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand. We're still gonna give people a few minutes to get in here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step away from the computer for a moment to take care of something. Then I'll be right back. While I'm gone, of course, I'll put on some music for you guys. I am back. Okay, so as I said, we're just waiting for currently more people to show up. Um, I hope everybody's had a good week thus far. Let's see. And I'll probably say this again too. Don't forget this Saturday is the ending of daylight savings, so you're going to need to fall back an hour. From what I understand, you're getting extra hour, as it were. Um, ah, Conan, the adventurer, Conan, man of bravery, with his mighty sword protecting the mightiest of warriors, is he. Conan. Break the spell of living by driving the cruel wizard Rathamon back into another dimension. Conan, the adventurer, Conan. Excuse me again, I've got to go deal with my dog. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on. I'm back now. Let's see. So we're coming up. So we're almost at the 8 minute mark here. So I might as well go over then what's on tap for tonight. So I've got 10 articles to go over with you guys for tonight. 7 anime related, 3 comics related, plus of course the wrestling roundup and the this day in each history segment, including looking back to 2019's Phantom Tales of the Night. Looking at a profile piece on that. Also, let's see, what else do we have? Let's see. We're gonna look a little bit at Your Forger from Spy Family, little profile piece on her. We had a couple of Naruto articles I'm gonna go over. We're gonna also learn a little bit more about the main characters from I'm the Villainess. Let's see anything, and we're gonna see how best to watch a certain magical index, scientific railgun, and scientific accelerator, and learning a little bit more about why fox gods and spirits are so popular in anime as well. And then on the comic side of it, we're gonna be talking about let's see, we're gonna look at D2 Comics' upcoming release of the Chris Farley graphic novel, as written by his brother. Dynamite Entertainment's Disney Gargoyles, and I think we also got another piece on something from on a release from I think it's about Luke Skywalker's now canonical wife, as they put it. Oh yeah, Hasbro Pulse has released a new figure of Luke Skywalker's wife. That's what it is. So as I get getting back to where we're trying to here. And I think it would be a good time to get going here. Let's see now. So yeah, so 10:30, 10:39. So all right. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started then. All right. All right. So let's go in here. All right. So let's get into this first article here. Phantom Tales of the Night was the most underrated horror manga of 2019. There's plenty of horror manga out there to fit the vibes of the spooky season. Though there is one series from 2019 that trumps the rest. Article by Deanna Shaw, published 14 hours ago. Now, this is, of course, I believe, Miss Shaw's you know, personal opinion, as it were. But let's see what she has to say about this um, particular manga here. I believe it's a manga, right? Yeah, horror manga. Okay. The fall season has arrived, and with it, the need to indulge in spooky, macabre media. Thankfully, for fans of anime and manga, there are plenty of options to choose from. From surreal horror titles such as Junji Ito's Uzumaki to Orochi by Kazuo Umezu. Umezu, rather. There's something out there for everyone. Unbeknownst to most people, however, There is an underrated manga series out there that is a wonderful choice for Halloween. Phantom Tales of the Night, um, which was originally created in 2019 by Matsuri, is um, is the perfect manga to read during the spooky season. What starts out as a chapter by chapter anthology of short stories soon finds its way to connect into a singular storyline. Through each story told, the art style is spectacular, the storytelling is fantastic, and the characters are intriguing. Story of Phantom Tales of the Night. Phantom Tales of the Night tells the story Mirakumo of Mirakumo Inn, a place that welcomes human and supernatural guests alike. Owner, alongside his employees, Spider and Butterfly, treats guests with the utmost care. There's just one catch: the price for staying at Mirakumo Inn is a secret. If a guest doesn't have a secret to share, then one must be created. Hmm, that's interesting, to say the least. Hmm. One such example is Tokihito Sasaki, who thinks of himself as an ordinary high school student until he comes across the inn. He soon realizes that he's been dead the entire time. Since he doesn't exactly have a secret to share, owners owner gives gives him one, the ability to return to his ordinary life while keeping the fact that he's dead a secret from those around him. Wow, that's that's kind of interesting. Go back as kind of a zombie or something like that, but yet people don't realize that you actually died. That's quite interesting. Quite an interesting trick, to say the least. Hmm. Although he isn't the protagonist, the story often comes around to follow his life once again, especially after he meets a man named Saijima, who declares himself a slayer on eliminating Owner. The two of them team up, much to Sasaki's dismay, and no matter what happens, Saijima follows the youth and insists they stay on the same side. Along the way, many unique and interesting characters are introduced. The longer the series goes on, the more we learn about each of our main characters as well. Well, that's kind of a natural progression of anything, right? A natural progression over time. You have if you have friends, the more you hang around them, the more you learn about them, right? Why it's perfect for Halloween. Between the brilliant, spooky storytelling and horrifying visuals, Phantom Takes of the Night is absolutely perfect for the Halloween season. Fans of Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, and Holic will surely enjoy the story Matsuri delivers. Phantom Tales of the Night is available in English through Yen Press. Alrighty then. That's kind of a quickie. That was a quickie. Quickie, quickie. As we try to move on to the next article here. And as I put in the banners there, if If anything here catches your attention, feel free to comment on it or ask about it. I'll try to answer the question as best I can. Um, but with that, let's continue on with the article. Spy Family's Your Forger echoed Isekai's Best Fighter and Worst Cook. Your Forger is Astanya's best assassin and worst chef, making her oddly reminiscent of a certain lovable character from Reincarnated as a Slime. Article by Louis Kemner, published 8 hours ago. Spy Family is a mega popular shonen comedy series that's returned for its second core in the fall 2022 season. Starring one of anime's best found families, each member of the Forger household is a unique, charming, and compelling shonen hero in their own right. And they're especially compared to similar anime characters, even in the isekai realm. The fan favorite Your Forger is an elite assassin and now doting foster mother to the precocious young Anya. Recent episodes of Spy Family reminded fans that while Yor is a terrific fighter and devoted foster mom, she is also a terrible cook. No matter her enthusiasm. This may remind fans of Shion, the ogre warrior, in That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. How Spy Family's Yor, reincarnated as a slime Shion, humorously fail at homemaking. uh, I guess that's Shion right there from The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Some adult female anime characters are traditional homemakers, often being the protagonist mother, such as um, such as the gentle Carla Yeager, or the Carla Yeager from Attack on Titan, or the cheerful Trisha Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Others go in the opposite direction as powerful fighters who identify with their combat skills, courage, and loyalty with their band of with their band of heroes. Sometimes a character might take both routes to succeed, such as Shinobi Mother Makoto Uchiha in Naruto. Uh-huh. For the sake of comedy, meanwhile, other characters like Your Forger and Shion um, try to take both routes and fail. It's admirable for these warriors to want so much to support their friends and families with domestic skills, but they simply can't pull it off. Uh, the poor lady. Shion may be an isekai character and an evolved ogre, but she and Yor are remarkably similar. Both of them are the best girl of their respective series, endlessly charmed with their beauty, awesome combat skills, and hysterically terrible attempts at cooking. Both strive to be multifaceted warrior moms in a sense, but it's not working out. Shion may be Rimuru's loyal secretary and a formidable fighter, but her atrocious cooking can poison even a goblin. Oh boy. You have to almost wonder how Wolverine and Sabretooth's stomachs would probably handle her cooking, man. Ah, anyways, and Rimuru would rather face Charabas um, again than eat Xian puts on his plate. Oh boy. Similarly, Lloyd and Anya both dread yours notoriously bad cooking. And even the Oracle dog Bond cowers in fear at the thought of yours cooking. Oh, like, even a dog, even a dog can be sick. That's bad cooking. If even a dog kind of whimpers and whines away from it, and that is bad cooking. Right? Oh boy. None of this is meant to be discouraging to fans. The message isn't that women and girls must choose between their careers and developing domestic skills, since there are plenty of empowering examples to the contrary. Well, and we mentioned one earlier, Makoto Uchiha, right? Um, Naruto. So, um, let's see. For humor's sake, and to keep the realm of anime diverse, some lovable anime women succeed at this balancing act, while others humorously fail. Hmm. In that sense, Yor and Shion are almost like a well-meaning parody of that idea, serving lethally nasty food while being the best fighters in their group. They aim to be more ladylike in traditional ways, but it's like fitting a square peg into a round hole. To their credit, though, Yor and Shion want to make everyone happy with their food, and they keep trying hard to become great chefs and feed everyone they love. Too bad they're they're their own worst enemies in that regard. Well, considering that Yor is an assassin too, here's another unique way she could probably kill her enemies. Just serve them her food. Just give them her food. That will probably kill her targets pretty quickly as well. Albeit if yours cooking is as nasty as people say, my guess would be not only does it taste bad, but it probably looks pretty bad too. The presentation always sucks, and people might just throw up at the sheer sight of it. Forget about tasting it. They probably would look at it and go, yeah. Ah, Yor and Shion's um, lovable Gap Moe quality. Oh God. Yeah, I'm guessing that's your front and center right there. Lloyd probably over her right shoulder there, our left, and then you have a couple more people more in the background there, and you got the one woman in the purple dress there with kind of a sick look on her face. But that thing right in front of her looks like something she just probably made. Looks more like it belongs in a witch's cauldron than in a kitchen. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, so even if Spy Family Yor and reincarnated as a slime Shion are usually dreadful chefs, this boosts their appeal a great deal, and not just for humor's sake. It may be funny to watch them cheerfully serve an edible slop, but the real appeal is the contrast between that and their deadly side. It's probably true. I mean, kind of a almost a Jekyll and Hyde aspect there. You got the lovable, sweet homemaker on the one hand, and the very deadly assassin on the other. So a deadly warrior on the other. So among other, well, I guess we're talking about Yor here, so it would be like deadly assassin. Among other things, Yor and Shion can be described as Gap Moe anime characters. Such characters are lovable, memorable, and surprisingly complex because they have such sharp contrast with themselves. So I guess what they're talking about here is they're kind of a moe, but there's like a big gap between the two, whatever, I guess, two aspects make a moe. I guess what they're talking about there. A classic example of gap moe is tough on the outside, soft on the inside. Okay, I get that. Like a punk rock, like a punk or monster with a good heart. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of have an idea of what that might. That kind of sounds. Now I know it wouldn't apply to Yusuke Urameshi because that's a guy, but you do have kind of that same kind of contrast there where he acts tough, but he still tries to do the right thing. So Yor and Shion are almost like double gap moe characters, with their charming exteriors contrasting with their aggressive warrior skills, which in turn contrast with their desire to be chefs and homemakers. Um, they feel like one two characters, both being tough, scary fighters who want so badly to be accepted as beautiful, kind, and gentle people on the outside. And I would think in yours case, it would really behoove her to as well because if she's like going after a target, the idea she needs to kind of cover her tracks and give some kind of illusion that she's not an assassin, even though she is. They generally succeed at this, with Shion being Rimuru's dear friend and Yor being Scanya's number one foster mom, but it all falls apart in the kitchen. These best girls don't want to identify too strongly as brutal warriors, so they try to soften their image and show their love with home-style cooking. Yor and Shion might succeed now and then, though empowering themselves with the proper motivation and to prepare a truly great meal for their friends and family. Kind of like the one we saw earlier in the article here. Bridging their two internal halves at last. These victories are short lived, though. For economy's sake, they soon revert to well meaning but terrible chefs who shine not in the kitchen but on the battlefield. That was a nice little profile piece right there. Okay, so here's the next one we're going to look at. One of the two Naruto articles we're going to hit tonight. Naruto, how redeeming its villains actually hurt the series. This is in this one writer's opinion. While Naruto's villains are considered one of the franchise's strongest points, The series might have hurt itself by redeeming too many of them. Article by Weave Tommy published 8 hours ago. So you have right there what looks like Orochimaru, um, Toby, and I know that might be an Uchiha right there. Um, I know it's not Sasuke or Itachi, but maybe I just haven't got to that point in the anime yet. October 2022 marked the 20th anniversary of the Naruto anime, making it one of the best times to look back on the high point of one of anime's biggest franchises. Yeah, I mean, I'm still watching it myself right now, going through Shippuden, and following it on Tsunami. One of the specific high points would be the villains, who are famous for being so well developed and multi-layered. However, it is difficult to refer to many of them as actual villains. For one reason or another, many antagonists were redeemed by the end of the series, or at the very least, were established to have sympathetic justifications for their actions. Like Sasuke, for a possible example, even though he's considered more of an anti-hero. Itachi, those two. Um, and this isn't bad by any means. In some cases, it really did make the characters and overall story much better. But in others, it felt rather forced and detrimental, making this choice something of a mixed bag from an audience's perspective. Mind you, though, what you have to remember too here is that anime are the animated adaptation of a manga. So if you are going to make this criticism, then you're making the criticism actually of the original writer, not necessarily of the people who produced the show, but just because, again, the show was, of course, adapted, was made into an anime adaptation from the source material, which is a manga. So if you're going to say this about the anime, then you're telling everybody that this is what you think of the manga, too. Not all the villains in Naruto deserve forgiveness. Probably the most glaring point in this argument is that a lot of villains didn't deserve to be forgiven by Naruto or anyone. The Naruto franchise is known for having sympathetic characters, whether they are heroes or not. While this made it easier for the audience to become attached and root for them, it became rather murky when applied to characters who were set up as foes to the main cast. Hmm. I wonder which characters they are actually talking about here, though. Let's see. The characters denoted as "quote unquote" evil in Naruto all had to earn that label, considering shinobi were essentially soldiers for their respective nations. An accomplished ninja from one village might be considered vile in another. The series made a point to ensure that characters set up as true villains weren't caught up in that subjective trap were universally considered bad news. Which I guess would a sign of that might be like the Sound Village, Orochimaru and the Sound Village. That's one that comes to mind here. But I guess they're about to give us an example here. An example of this would be Zabuza, the franchise's first major villain. We remember him from the early days. That was I believe Team Seven's first C-rank mission. Um, it ended up actually being an A or B, um, A or S mission, but Zabuza, franchise's first major villain. Oh, okay. He was an elite rogue ninja and an ex-Anbu member, and a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. So he was a Zabuza was a pretty bad guy there. He was a pretty accomplished ninja there. Um, in the Land of Waves arc, he was hired to kill a bridge builder and was forced to fight Team Seven to do so. While he was a mercenary who had no qualms with killing, he had good points too, such as how he took in and raised Haku. It was through his relationship with Haku that the series redeemed Zabuza. hmm Yeah, I remember that because, and this is a man who was part of what they called the quote unquote Bloody Mist Village too. Think about that. But yet, what they're talking about here is they redeemed him because he basically, in essence, became a father figure to Haku, who um, who was, of course, actually a boy, biologically a boy, but he presented himself as a woman. Well, okay, he physically presented himself as a woman, but he even acknowledged himself as a boy. So, or anyways, let's see now. Even though it was established that he was a cold-blooded killer. Okay, he wasn't all bad. In this case, Naruto managed to make a cool villain who wasn't necessarily an evil person, which was pretty well done. Yeah, I think the thing about Zabuza was probably more of a realist if you really think about it. He didn't have qualms about killing. He may not have necessarily wanted or liked the idea of killing, but he did it because that's what he was at times hired to do. It's what he had to do. Okay. Um, he understood that. That didn't necessarily make him a full on evil person. Anyway, Orochimaru and Nagato's horrible actions were far outweighed their good deeds. Okay, that argument might very well be that's probably stronger with Orochimaru than Nagato, I think. Just give me a sec here, folks. Never mind. There we go. All right. So, anyway, getting back to the article here, Orochimaru and Nagato's horrible actions far outweigh their good deeds. Um, so I think that's more the case with Orochimaru than Nagato. And I guess maybe we'll see why here in a moment. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case for every villain who followed. One of the biggest cases of this would be Orochimaru, who invaded the Hidden Leaf, was responsible for killing the third Hokage, and performed countless experiments on humans throughout the series. He manipulated and tried to groom Sasuke becoming a vessel for himself later on. But by the end of Naruto Shippuden, he is considered an ally of the village because he helped Sasuke during the Fourth Shinobi War, World War, which is true. And I'm actually watching that arc right now, of course. Uh, you know, there's a particular exchange when Orochimaru initially um, reanimated the four Hokage. So, anyways, he would have children fight each other to the death for him, revel in their misery, and was basically as evil as a mad scientist character could be. Yet no one seemed to care about any of this anymore. Well, because I think part of that, though, too, is part of the reason that people may not necessarily care is because he has, from what I yes, by the end of Shippuden, from what according to from what I understand, probably what was redeemed in a way because even in Boruto, from the the first season of Boruto that I've watched, he's more of an ally of the Leaf at that point than an enemy. It's not like he was. I mean, there is the idea of maybe as time moves on, your goals change, your perspective change, which could have been the case with Orochimaru. Anyways, continuing on with the article here, Pain or Nagato, that was one of the franchise's greatest and strongest villains, is another great example. He defeated the mighty Jiraiya and even managed to destroy the Hidden Leaf in one decisive strike. His invasion caused the death of Shizune and Kakashi, only name a few. Yeah, but they were actually brought back to life by him as well. It's where it gets a little tricky here with this analysis. The one aspect that made Kane so interesting was his ideology, believing the only way to achieve everlasting peace would be if everyone experienced the pain of war. It was a noble yet ultimately misguided notion that explained a lot of his actions and choices. That said, this by no means justifies or atones them as the series implies. When Naruto confronts Nagato's main body, he convinces him that his methods were wrong and to trust that he will make things better in his well, I think it's supposed to say on his own, not in his own. Oh, on his own, in his in his own peaceful way. Okay, they put a apostrophe there with maybe a comma there rather. Nagato relents and uses one of the Renegon's powers to bring back most of the people he killed during the invasion at the cost of his own life, as I previously mentioned, including Kakashi and Suzune. As nice of a gesture as this is, it doesn't excuse all the pain and suffering he caused. The entirely Hidden Leaf village was decimated, with many people losing their homes and businesses. It also doesn't excuse all the deaths he caused before the invasion, such as Jiraiya's, as Naruto's mentor was still dead. The series decided to treat Nagato like a misunderstood, well-intentioned character, even though his decisions and orders led to so many people dying for no good reason. Even if Naruto forgave him, which is hard to believe in itself, that doesn't mean anyone else had to. Yeah, but I think in that though, there's also the idea that in a way I think it's very similar to kind of like the situation between the third Hokage, Hiruzen, Sarutobi, and Orochimaru too. was a little bit more of a personal connection there because they were both discipled under the same master, Jiraiya. And despite the ending there, I'm sure even up to his final breath, Nagato, you know, may have somewhat regretted what he did to Jiraiya, but also I think he did have a certain amount of admiration and respect for him, even if he ended up killing him. That's just from what I saw of it anyway. But, ah, redeeming certain villains in Naruto didn't make sense. Right? We got a picture here of Naruto and Obito confronting each other in the thought realm, basically. So let's see what's going on here. While Naruto redeeming villains was ultimately the best move in some cases, such as with Itachi, for many it didn't seem to make much sense in the plot. The series would frequently have Naruto use um, his infamous or famous Talk no Jutsu. Um, I have no idea what that means. To deter villains from continuing their evil plot. Unfortunately, this its employment is a bit baffling on many occasions. Okay, if they're meaning talk no jutsu, in other words, giving a big speech about certain principles and that, and then getting thereby getting the villain to rethink their thought process, it probably is an interesting take on it. As mentioned above, Nagato is a prime example. He killed the master Jiraiya, was indirectly responsible for the death of Asuna, and tried to kill everyone in the Hidden League. He beat Hinata to death like a ragdoll and caused the death of Kakashi before Naruto arrived. Even if Nagato decided to bring everyone back as a way of atonement, it doesn't make everything he did okay. And the fact that Naruto would even think of forgiving him just felt random at best and completely forced at worst. I think he might make a decent point there. And many Christians would argue that it's not for us to judge, but it's for God to judge too. But then again, this is an anime, you know, dealing with people who don't believe in the God that most like Judeo Christians believe in. So take that for what it may be. Likewise, Obito was one of the main architects of almost every major conflict in the Naruto franchise, being the one who founded the Akatsuki, took control of Kurama, and had it invade Noha, I believe, as well as kill both of his parents. He jump started a whole war and even used Sasuke as a pawn during the quote unquote five Kage part. However good his intentions are, his acts were still heinous. Yet, by the end of the main series, Obito is remembered as a hero for doing barely a handful of good acts before he died. Sure, those actions helped save the world and the main cast when it was all done down to the wire. That doesn't necessarily mean he's worth forgiving. This is the same guy who was responsible for Naruto growing up as a shunned orphan. But suddenly all is forgiven, seemingly because the plot channels it to be, or demands it to be. Obito is also responsible for manipulating Nagato into attacking the village, adding another reason why he shouldn't be forgiven. There's a Sasuke and Naruto at it again. Anybody has dropped in yet? Oh, we do have another person. Hello. Hope you're doing well tonight. If you can like and share the stream, see if we can get more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Um, and as always, if anything here catches your attention, you feel free to comment on that or ask questions. I'll do my best to answer the questions as best I can. Anyways, getting back to the article here. This might be because the series wanted to portray Naruto as kind and big-hearted as possible, juxtaposed to Sasuke's revenge-focused nature. But in this case, it really didn't make much sense and felt like a Deus Machina. In fact, Naruto forgiving Sasuke barely made sense and only worked because the series spent so long building to that moment. Yep. I mean, in a way, these two came up together. These two were real classic rivals for one another. So, hey, Naruto is a great series with some of the coolest villains in anime. Unfortunately, it tried so hard to make them deep and likable that it actually made some of them worse characters in the process. For every Itachi and Zabuza, there is an Obito and Orochimaru. By trying to make the villains sympathetic, the franchise arguably made it hard for them to be labeled as. Well, I don't think Orochimaru was. I don't think Orochimaru was ever seen as sympathetic, though. Even now, as an ally, I don't. I still don't think he's seen as sympathetic, just as somebody who's just simply changed his perspective. You know. So, um, let's see. By trying to make the villains sympathetic, the franchise arguably made it hard for them to be labeled as villains, especially since Naruto was willing to forgive almost anyone. In quotes here, Top no Jutsu is the strongest power in the whole series, as it doesn't just turn a villain into a good guy, it seemingly destroys any sense of logic present in that moment. Um, Again, I believe the Top no Jutsu is the when Naruto gives the big grandiose speech about why he wants to become Hokage, what his goals ultimately are, what it means for him to what it means to him to be Hokage. And that's what it probably is talking about there. Anyways, getting ready to move on to the next article here. Article 3 of 10 we're doing tonight. Oh, we spent quite a bit of time on it, in fact. It's coming up on the hour mark already. Anyways, moving on to the next article here. A little profile article here. I'm the villainess. Meet the main characters of the hit isekai otome anime. Otome basically means like maiden. It's a Japanese word for maiden. So, I'm the villainess is an isekai otome anime with a shoujo edge to it, starring a massive cast of lovable game-style characters. Article by Louis Kenmer, published 7 hours ago. Here are all the and the one in the center there is a little. You gotta be kidding me. Following contains spoilers through episode 5 of I'm a Villainous, so I'm poo. Alright, sorry guys, this one we're not doing because I don't really do spoilers. Sorry about that. If I had thought that that would be spoilers, and that sounded like it was going to be a good profile piece, but kind of a spoiler. So don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I would encourage people to go out and check it out. That's not like a pretty good anime. Anyways, moving on to the next article then. All right, this one I know is not because these ones have been out for a while. This is all part of one franchise. I know these have been out because I've seen these shows, so it's good. It's great, anyways. Um, how to watch a certain magical index scientific railgun scientific accelerator. With so many seasons and multiple shows made to tell the story of the series, this guide can help make it easier for fans to jump in. Article by Rive Sami, up, updated 5 hours ago. Okay. So you got in the center there, you got um, Misaka, Oka, that's an accelerator. Anyway, in the early 2000s, a series of light novels known as A Certain Magical Index were released. Upon garnering acclaim for its well designed characters and interesting story, it received an anime adaptation courtesy of the studio JC Staff after the anime's release. The franchise um, gained even more new fans worldwide. This, however, is where things get a tad bit confusing. Due to the popularity of the light novels and anime, multiple spin-offs for each were created. While this great, why this is great for fans of the franchise, as there was now much more content, um, it became much harder for newcomers to get into the series. This is especially true for the anime adaptation. While it was clear that the different series were related to one another, it was less clear where to begin and which ones were necessary. There's a guide. Here's a guide to help clarify it all for those interested in picking up a certain magical index. This was a pretty cool series too. I watched it. It was a pretty nice series to get into. I particularly like Railgun. Railgun's probably my favorite of the three. So, anyway, plot of a certain magical index scientific railgun scientific accelerator. So, hey, so it's on the watch. Good. All right, so here we go. Set in a world largely similar to our own in many ways, the various stories center around different students who live in the fictional place known as Academy City. City essentially acts as one giant research institute, with over 80% of its population being students, and is considered the leader of the scientific world. It's so advanced that it was able to develop a curriculum that could give superpowers to its students, known as S. Now we know in our world, an esper is somebody who has EXP, extra perception. The main series, a certain medical index, follows student Kamijo Toma, a level zero, basically a powerless esper. While technically being an esper, even though he didn't obtain a power from the curriculum, Toma's right hand is incredibly special, known as the Imagine Breaker, quote unquote. They can cancel out um, any Esper's powers on contact as well as any magic. So basically, he's kind of very similar to Asta from Black Clover, in that in Black Clover, Asta did not necessarily have any innate magical ability but yet he was able to master anti-magic, the ability to cancel out, other people's magic. So much kind of the same kind of character here, where he can cancel out other extras with the use of his right hand. Toma navigates his life after meeting a mysterious nun named Index Librorum, Librorum. Let's see. Oh, Index Librorum Prohib- Prohibitorium. All right, Prohibitorum. Okay, very Latinesque word there, obviously. With the content of 103,000 magical grimoires stored in her mind, she holds a key position in the magical world, which is mainly represented by different Christian sects, such as the English Puritan Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and Russian Orthodox. After meeting her, Toma ends up getting caught in the middle of a secret war between the magical and scientific world, um, with his right hand potentially holding the key to either side's victory. Yeah, he's kind of a major supporting character in both Current Magical Index and Current Scientific Railgun. However, this is just one part of the whole picture. Both a certain Scientific Railgun and Scientific Accelerator spin off of Index and act as side stories centered around Misaka Mikoto, aka Railgun, and Accelerator, respectively. So, as the two, and Railgun is a real fun one to watch. You know, it's fun because just watch Misaka is a pretty good combatant in her own right and very graceful in battle. Something that I think many people would enjoy watching. So, um, and the two characters who act as secondary, as the two character who act as the secondary protagonist to Index, these spin-offs help expand the overall plot and provide further insight into their world, particularly the science side. Their journeys, especially accelerators, plays a play a crucial role in both the main story and the finale. And you would even within the shows at times have you would actually have some crossover there too. Uh, all right. Well, anyways, how to watch the A Certain Magical Index, Scientific Railgun, Scientific Accelerator anime. With a main series consisting of 3 seasons and 2 spin-offs that develop the plot further, it can be daunting trying to figure out the correct watch order for the franchise. Currently, there are two ideal ways to go about this. Viewers can either go chronologically by broadcast order or by the order of events that happen in the storyline. For example, even though season 1 of Index released first, Railgun's first season is canonically set before it. here is the watch order based on broadcast. A certain magical index, a certain scientific railgun, a certain magical index 2, a certain scientific railgun S, a certain magical index movie, The Miracle of Endymion, a certain scientific accelerator, a certain magical index 3, a certain scientific railgun 2. I haven't seen those last two yet, but the chronological order is certain scientific railgun, a certain scientific railgun S, a certain magical index, a certain scientific accelerator, a certain magical index 2, a certain scientific railgun T, a certain magical index, the movie The Miracle of Endymion, and a certain magical index 3. Try saying all that 3 times fast. So the ones I do remember are like Misaka Toma and Index are the 3 in the middle there. Um, the girls to the girl screen left to basically Misaka's right are members of the student council or something like that. I don't know who the 2 on the far right are. Those 2 are connected to Index. Anyways, continuing on with the article here. These are what many would consider the 2 best watch orders. Should be mentioned that there is some story overlap with Railgun and Index, especially in Railgun X. While technically the events of the first half of Railgun S happen in the first season of Index, it's not given nearly the same amount of depth as it is in the former. Obviously, because Index would be focusing more on things from Index's perspective, whereas Railgun focuses the perspective from Mikoto, from Misaka's perspective. So of course, yeah, they, as I mentioned earlier, they do cross over, but of course, one's not going to be as in depth as the other because you're looking at it from two, like Index covers from Index's point of view, Railgun covers it from the Coaster's point of view. And then Accelerator, of course, covers it from Accelerator's point of view. So, for that reason, the best way to experience the storyline is by watching Railgun S first. A certain magical index may be dense, but it's still easy to watch as long as fans know where to start. While these are the 2 simplest and most enjoyable watch orders, there is one more. Possible to watch the whole series in chronological order by episode, but given the complicated and just plain inconvenience of that, well, it is recommended that newcomers go with one of the 2 suggested guides above. Due to Index's fast pace, also widely recommended that anime watchers read the light novels or manga for context, especially for the 3rd season. For those who have the patience, this series is definitely worth the time. Yeah, it's a pretty good series. I'll acknowledge that as well. Um. Anyways, we get ready to move on to the next article here. All right, here's the other article other Naruto article we're going to go through. But of course, before I do, do need to step away for a moment. Ah, step away for a moment. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. All right. Anyways, thank you, Hammer. Let's continue on with the next article here. Hmm. Naruto, Orochimaru's origins and series development explained. Orochimaru was once thought to be the ultimate villain in the Naruto franchise, but somewhere along the line, everything changed. article by Guive Tommy, published by Naruto. I believe this is the same person who wrote the previous Naruto article that we read earlier as well, Redeemable Villains. Anyways, see what they have to say here. Naruto is one of the most beloved anime series of all time, with a great cast of well-developed characters and cool powers that are constantly showcased through stunning fights. It's no wonder the series is so popular. One feature of the series that stands out the most is the villain, which many anime fans consider to be some of the best in the medium. I guess including Guive there. Anyways, but there is one villain in particular that piqued fans' interest. It would probably be Orochimaru. As the first major villain the franchise introduced, the character quickly became a fan favorite, but not because he was particularly likable, obviously. Orochimaru was terrifying, cruel, and ruthless, making him a perfect villain. Even Kakashi, who was portrayed as one of the strongest characters at that point, was scared and seemingly powerless against him. As time went on, Orochimaru underwent drastic changes, making it hard to understand who his character was and what his goals were. Looking back, though, Orochimaru developed more than almost any other character. Origins of the Naruto, excuse me. You see him there as a young shinobi, part of the Sanin, with Jiraiya to his left and Tsunade to his right. Jiraiya screen right, Tsunade screen left, and then their sensei, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. Orochimaru was originally an orphan from the Hidden Leaf Village. After his parent died, he met Hiruzen Sarutobi, who would later become the third Hokage. While at his parents' grave, they saw a snake that Hiruzen said represented good fortune and rebirth. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Unbeknownst to Hiruzen at the time, that statement would inspire Orochimaru to try and find the secrets of life through forbidden jutsu. Oh goody. After graduating from the academy, Orochimaru was placed on a team alongside Tsunade Senju, the granddaughter of course, the first Hokage and grandniece of the second, and Jiraiya under the guidance of Hiruzen. While he was considered a prodigy and once in a generation genius, both of his teammates could see he harbored a twisted side even at that young age. As time went on, and this is one of the things that also played out too. There, much in the same vein of how Naruto and Sasuke's relationship interactions played out. There was a parallel there with Orochimaru and Jiraiya as well. Let's see. As time went on, the three of them became incredibly strong shinobi, later gaining the title of Sanin from Hanzo the Salamander. Through constant battles and hardships faced by himself and his close ones, Orochimaru became more and more fixated on his own mortality and kept trying to find new ways of overcoming it. This desire ended up evolving into Orochimaru wanting to become an ultimate being that could gain all the knowledge the world had to offer. This led him to perform countless inhumane experiments on people, even children, to try and learn um, the secrets to getting stronger. Basically, this is, of course, where the curse marks all come in. Anyways, right. So Orochimaru spent his entire life and career as a shinobi trying to become all powerful and all knowing. Sounds like he was trying to become a god, all right? Oh boy, so let's continue. As one of the Sannin, he was easily one of the strongest ninja in the world, was considered potentially one of the smartest too. He learned Senjutsu, and although his host body at the time was deemed too weak to handle Sage Mode, by studying Jugo's unique body and powers, he was able to find ways of manipulating Senjutsu chakra through the use of his curse seals. He even discovered a way to resurrect himself via these curse seals if he were to ever die. Unfortunately, his ingenuity was as boundless as his depravity. A very smart, deranged man, and look at that face. That's a face that can give you nightmares, isn't it? That's a face that could give most people nightmares. It all comes down to it. Orochimaru's twisted nature only became worse as he grew older, realizing that having any shred of morality would hold him back from learning and achieving his goals as quickly and efficiently as possible. Probably why they feel that he wasn't redeemable in the other article. He cast these things aside almost entirely. When he did spare Kabuto from death, even though Danzo had ordered his murder, it was only because he saw himself in the boy and thought he could be useful later on, which proved to be an accurate assessment. Interestingly enough, although Kabuto definitely proved himself to be strong, Orochimaru never once attempted to steal his body, as there was nothing "quote unquote" special to gain from it. Yeah. So unlike the Uchiha bodies with the Sharingan, um, it was this obsession that drove him to become fascinated by the Uchiha clan and their Sharingan. The Sharingan is the ultimate Kekkei Genkai, allowing anyone who has it the ability to learn and copy any jutsu they see, as long as they have the capability of performing the jutsu, such as knowing how to perform the corresponding nature release of the jutsu in question. Someone with the Sharingan will have no trouble using that jutsu. While this makes it impossible for them to copy Kekkei Genkai, it makes all other jutsus exponentially easier to learn and obtain. This meant it was perfect for Orochimaru. Yes, it was perfect for it because he wanted to know every jutsu that was possible, right? So, um, Oh, there's one of his earlier appearances and sticking his snake-like tongue out at you. Probably not a very pretty sight, to say the least. Uh, we shall continue on here. Unfortunately for him, he knew that just stealing people's eyes wouldn't be enough, as only a true Uchiha can ever use the Sharingan to its full potential. As we saw with Kakashi when he was given Obito's eye, you know, Kakashi could do, he became known as a copy ninja, of course, but that was the, and he did develop a few things like being able to use Kamui, but that was about the extent of it. This is why he spent so much of his time trying to take the body of one. It led him to attack both Itachi and Sasuke, considering them both to be his only options after the Uchiha massacre, and because they were two of the strongest Sharingan users he ever encountered. Part of the reason why he convinced Sasuke to join him in the Sound. After being exiled from the Hidden Leaf Village and forced out of the Akatsuki due to his sadistic experiments and lust for the Uchiha powers, Orochimaru seemingly had nothing holding him back from achieving what he assumed to be his own potential. He established the Hidden Sound Village, using many of the shinobi in it as his test subjects. In fact, he would later use two of the genin he sent to the tuning exams as host bodies for the reanimated Kage that he used, basically for Hashirama and Tobirama's bodies. So. And he spent much of his time trying to acquire the Sharingan and destroy the Hidden Leaf, the latter of which he almost did during the quote-unquote Chunin exam arc, while he ended up forcing the third Hokage to sacrifice himself in order to stop him. The leaf remained, and Orochimaru's plan ultimately failed. Now, I know it says Konoha, but leaf is the translation to it. Probably easier to understand it that way. Luckily for him, the events of the invasion ended up stirring Sasuke's insecurities, resulting in him defecting from the Hidden Leaf and into Orochimaru's clutches. While he wasn't able to take Sasuke's body, as Sasuke, much like his brother, grew too strong for Orochimaru to handle, Orochimaru did manage to resurrect himself twice afterwards. What's interesting is that his resurrection seemingly brought out a new side to the villain, one that was much more benevolent to nature. Interesting. Orochimaru the hero? After the defeat of Kabuto, Sasuke decided to use the cursed seal on Anko, Midorashi's neck, to fully resurrect Orochimaru. Sasuke felt that he needed his old master's assistance in order to talk to the past Hokage that had previously died. Interestingly, and this is all happening, of course, during the Fourth Shinobi War arc. Um, Interestingly enough, Orochimaru obliged without hesitation and held no ill will towards Sasuke for killing him earlier in the story. I almost get, yeah, and from what I've seen since that resurrection, it's almost like Orochimaru has taken on more of a father figure in some respects to Sasuke. When asked what brought about the change in his character, he claimed it was due to Kabuto. After Orochimaru died, Kabuto took his body's remains and incorporated his DNA as well as DNA of the Sound Five into his body, hoping that this would let him become the ultimate being that his master tried to become himself. In essence, Kabuto's lack of personal identity caused him to try to find his own by copying the actions and powers of others. So, in essence, what they're saying there is Kabuto was more or less a chameleon. Anyways, let's see. Orochimaru recognized this after his resurrection and couldn't help but feel like he had been doing the same thing all this time by trying to take Sasuke's powers for his own. Seeing how this mindset led to both his and Kabuto's downfall, Orochimaru decided to rethink his actions and direction. Mm-hmm. Idea that he may have changed his perspective on things. Finding Sasuke's current conundrum of not being able to decide what his next course of action should be, whether to protect the hidden leaf or destroy it, he decided to aid his former pupil, predicting that Sasuke's next move would lead to some manner of change in the world, or at least in the Fourth Shinobi World War. Orochimaru ended up staying around longer than he would have had to, intrigued by all the possibilities that could arise. That looks like Orochimaru going after Toby, I believe, or maybe even Madara. Much to everyone's surprise, Orochimaru actually ended up having a hugely positive impact on the war. He not only protected Sasuke and fought off Madara's forces, but the past Hokage he was responsible for reanimating helped turn the tide of the war as a whole. These actions were enough to lead him to be considered redeemed by many of the shinobi present. And he is currently considered an ally of the Hidden Leaf Village with his quote-unquote son, Mitsuki, being a resident shinobi of the Leaf, Konoha. So, for many fans, this was an interesting character arc, to say the least. Many consider Orochimaru to have been the best villain in the series before his eventual shift into a heroic role. Which, yeah, you could argue he was a very good villain. He's pretty evil. You know, um, you know. Let's see. But of course, unlike Danhausen in AEW, he wasn't very nice initially. So, um, a lot of them also feel like the evil acts he committed didn't warrant any aspect of forgiveness or redemption. While it's clearly by the end of Naruto and throughout Boruto that Orochimaru is now one of the quote unquote good guys along with Kabuto, it's hard to feel like he really earned that considering all the terrible things he did leading up to his supposed redemption. He was even invited to Naruto and Hinata's wedding, which goes to show just how much he's been forgiven. Well, as we talked about in the previous article, Naruto is quite a very big-hearted and caring guy. Big-hearted and forgiving guy. We know that much. Whether his redemption is one that fans like or feel it was justified is still up for debate. While some would say that it made him worse as a character, it's hard to argue that it wasn't an interesting or unexpected twist in the story, considering how much of the focus of the series had on redemption and forgiveness. It isn't hard to see why he was given this specific character arc. Hopefully the Boruto manga and or anime uses his character sometime in the future, as he may even hold the key to saving the world. Oh, with as much knowledge as he's acquired, that would make a lot of sense right there. So anyways, getting ready to move on. Let's see, we have one more article to go through here. One more anime article before we get into the three comic articles. We're making good time here. So we have our last anime article here. Why are anime about fox gods and spirits so popular? Kitsune and foxes in general are common throughout Japan's folklore, claiming their prominence in popular anime and other Japanese media. Now, the kitsune is known as kind of a trickster fox, as I understand it. So, they got Karama right there in the middle, big orange fox that's inside of Naruto. You do have Inuyasha and Kokome to the right of your screen there, because they have, of course, Shippo, and I don't know exactly. And then there's a fox character there as well. So, anyways, let's take a look at this. All right, article by Timothy Donahue, published 5 hours ago. Okay, so anime as a medium has several recurring trends, tropes, themes, and archetypes. But some being more noticeable than others. One somewhat perplexing common element is the presence of fox demons and fox gods in various animes, regardless of genre, from shonen action shows to shoujo romantic comedies. These beings, known as kitsune in Japan, or kitsune in Japan, are some of the most frequently seen creatures in anime. Let's see. This might come off as odd to some Western viewers who may be unaware of the significance of the kitsune in Japanese mythology. Given that anime is Japanese in origin, one way in which it showcases its country's culture is through folklore and fauna. Here is a deep dive into the magical Japanese foxes, plus why they're such a recurring theme. What are kitsune, the mystical Japanese fox deities? Okay. Kitsune are one of several yokai. Yokai basically meaning like demon, basically. Seen in Japanese folklore and mythology. So basically, kitsune are demon foxes. With the magical foxes typically having the ability to transform from their natural appearance into a human form. Portrayed as either mischievously playful or as guardians of good, kitsune are usually messengers for similarly positive or negative omens. Yeah, they're kind of tricks. They're known as being tricksters a little bit. They're also sometimes shown having multiple tails with the plumage of appendages representing their wisdom. Those the more tails they have, the more wise they're considered. Given that 9 is the highest number of tails typically really given to these foxes, comparisons could be made to cats and their 9 lives. This fits with the more feline, almost feminine characteristics attributed to foxes compared to other canines. Well, you see that with with Yoko Kurama in Naruto as well, or not Naruto, but Yu Hakusho as well. Excuse me a moment. I need to go tend to my dog. She's barking again. All right, I'm back. Now let's get back to this then. See, in fact, the kitsune who transform into humans usually do so in the guise of a woman, with the belief that any woman encountered alone at night could be a kitsune. Beyond shape-shifting, their other most common powers include elemental abilities, namely pyrokinesis. Others um, have even more godlike abilities with this diversity in kitsune hierarchy, further explaining their frequency in Japanese beliefs. Why do kitsune show up so often in anime? There you see Naruto with Kurama, his version of Kurama in there. Kurama, I think, is a common name for the kitsune. Kitsune. Several anime utilize gods, demons, and other creatures with qualities of kitsune. Um, Perhaps the most famous example is Naruto, in which the protagonist is possessed by the nine-tailed fox demon Kurama. A character of the same name appeared in Yu Yu Hakusho, being a white-haired fox demon whose soul is placed into a human vessel. Another, much more playful example is Shippo from Inuyasha, with a diminutive, half-human, half-demon, half-fox demon child. Other portrayals of kitsune in Japanese media include Tails of the Sonic the Hedgehog and Vulpix Ninetales in Pokemon video games, with a real-life kitsune statue supposedly inspiring the creation of the Star Fox series. As for why they're so popular in anime, it's simply a matter of how important they are in classical Japanese mythology. Kitsune are associated with Inari, a rice and fertility god, making them important symbols of society once dependent on farmers' harvest. Thus, their ubiquitous nature in anime was preceded by similar frequency within Japan, as the aforementioned kitsune statues are common throughout the country. Thus, these beings are sort of the Japanese equivalent to a combination of America's bald eagle and the Easter Bunny. Likewise, making an anime character associated with kitsune or a kitsune themselves instantly identifies them as playful or a trickster. Once again, this can be seen in Naruto's playful nature early in the series, as well as Shippo's humorous childhood antics, like instantly producing a statue to help pin Inuyasha down by his hand, for example. Given the being's duality, anime featuring kitsune also deal with the concept of being trapped between two worlds. This is literal for non-kitsune heroine Kagome, who's caught between her time period and Inuyasha's, ostracized as a child for his unknown demonic nature. Naruto comes to terms with it more as a young adult. That show continues to be one of the most popular anime franchises, perhaps reflecting the Magic Fox deity's own common nature. Through these anime, many non-Japanese viewers have come to learn of the kitsune and its characteristics, thus becoming educated on Japanese culture and folklore, even if the full history behind them remains unknown. Kitsune um, have thus become subtle mascots for anime and Japan in general. Yeah, yeah. Usually, as noted there, most most Fox 80s in Japan are known for being kind of like the playful tricksters. So, anyways, now we're gonna be getting into some of the comic articles here. Now, wow, I didn't even realize it took that long just to get through those articles. Anyways, hmm. Actually, what I think I'm going to do here then is I'm going to go ahead and start winding down here. Try to get because I don't, again, I'm trying to keep these right around the 2 hour mark. We're already kind of at the point where, I'm trying to average these out to about around 2 hours. We're already at that point. So I think I'm going to start to wind things down here by getting into the, going straight to the pro wrestling, the wrestling roundup. So we do have some news, coming. So first on the WWE side of things, there is a report that possibly Logan Paul's brother Jake might be joining him at Crown Jewel, basically to act as his corner man, as Logan will be taking on Roman Reigns in the main event at Crown Jewel, and he'll have his cousins, the Uso brothers, and Sokola, um, in his corner. So we'll see how that all pans out. Also, the WWE announced that their investigation into Vince McMahon is complete. No details have been released yet as to what they found. Um, let me see. Also, it's been reported that Vince is pretty much probably done with the WWE and wrestling as of now, which probably is a good. I mean, Triple H is taking over, and according to Dutch Mantel, Vince may not have necessarily cared about the WWE towards the end there. Um, it may have led to some of it. Now, with some other impending investigations into Vince McMahon's behavior as well, and I don't. Again, Vince is 77, 78 years old. Chances of him actually coming back to the, especially considering he had been running it from the early 80s. He basically bought out his dad back in 1983. So it was almost like 40 years ago that he's been running the company for almost 40 years. You know, maybe a time for him to retire, and be done with it. So, anyways, that's WWE news. And then for the AEW news, we have some, of course, last night's Dynamite saw, in the main event, of course, you saw Samoa Joe retain the TV title over Brian Cage. John Moxley defeated Lee Moriarty in a basically a world title eliminator match. Jade Cargo retained her title over Marina Shafir, albeit I don't know if she actually got her belt back from Rose at all. I don't know if that happened. Let me see. What else happened last night? Chris Jericho retained his title over Colt Cabana. Now, here's the interesting thing about that match. A lot of people were upset with the booking of that match because they felt it was more like, talk a little bit more about this in a moment here, but they felt that was a little bit more like kind of a sticking the middle finger up at CM Punk because they decided to bring Colt Cabana back. They now decided to bring him back because, CM Punk's gone. Let's stick it to him one more time. Now, granted, I don't agree with that kind of booking either. But and I know some people might argue that as well as and I would more argue the interference in the match itself spoiled the match. The match was a great match. Do not get me wrong. The match was a great match. It should have gotten a 10. In my opinion, because of the interference, that's why I ended up, downgrading it a little bit. Should have been a great match. What people tend to forget, and everybody's upset about the booking because you have a lot of salty CM Punk fans out there who are just crying salt because CM Punk's gone from AEW, and AEW is going to stick it to him one more time by bringing in Cabana. But what people may not know or have forgotten is that Cabana is a 2-time former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Okay, he may not have won the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion. He's a 2-time tag team champion there with Punk, ironically. But he is a former world champion. He's a former world champion NWA. A 2-time NWA, had some legendary awards with legendary battles with Adam Pearce back there in like 2011, 2012. Okay, a lot of them being featured on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Okay. So people who are down on it for the booking and just saying, well, the match just totally sucked because of the way it was booked and not really looking at the match itself. I watched the match. I watched a good portion of it. What I thought was actually a pretty good match. Probably should have earned a 10. And probably should have been the main event, in my opinion. Okay, just because the way it was booked, it shouldn't be looked down upon just because of how it was booked. Because you still had a battle of two world champion quality wrestlers there. Chris Jericho, the current Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Champion, and Colt Cabana, a 2-time former NWA World Champion. Jay Lethal had defeated Darby Allin. Let's see. Orange Cassidy retained the All Atlantic Championship in a 3-way against Luchasaurus and Rey Fenix, which set up the Atlantic City Dream match this Friday on Rampage at Boardwalk Hall with Katsuya Shibata, who of course came down to save Cassidy after he was being attacked by Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh. There's a lot of now. Last night there were probably more run-ins that were needed. That is what in WrestleMania was saying. But overall, this was a very good show, and it did lay some more groundwork for Full Gear right now. You have, I think, signed for Full Gear, which is 2 weeks from this Saturday, the 19th. You have Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against MJF, and then you have the Acclaim defending the World Tag Team Championships against Swerve. There's some more story developing there between Swerve and Keith Lee as to whether or not they may be. There's a couple of interesting stories to be following there. One is that one, and then another one is what's going on in Death Triangle too, as the reigning trios champions are having some issues as Pac seems to be going towards the way of the heel, and the Lucha Brothers are just not having it. And then, of course, Jeff Jarrett is now All Elite, as he made his presence felt by coming in and delivering a guitar shot to Darby. Now that was probably the one quote unquote run in that I think was a good one, because at least it kind of brought one more element to the whole Lethal Allen feud there. And Jarrett did just as Darby told him, he came to tell him what his biggest weakness was, which in Jarrett's opinion is the idolization of your heroes. So, and also with the investigation into the All Out incident, physical confrontation between Punk and with that being closed out, it's clear that CM Punk is probably gone from AEW. I think we saw that even with the booking of Colt Cabana in the Ring of Honor title match. And there's some promotional packages featuring the Elite coming back. So that's all looking like that will be coming up pretty soon here too. Anyways, let me finish things off here now. So now that we got through all that, today being Thursday, November the 3rd, 2022, let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Let me just review real quick. 2002 as well, and then 2007. Okay. So, without any further ado, let's take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. First off, on this date back in 2002, which was, I'm sorry, that's 2000. Okay, I misread that. Okay, that comes in a moment. So actually, let me get the right thing up there. Okay, going back 20 years ago today, on this date in 2002, as part of the Deke Movie Tune series, Deke produced a movie called The Archies in Jugman, which premiered on Nickelodeon on this date back in 2022. Was followed by international airings on Disney Channel and Toon Disney. Movie features the same character designs, but with different outfits and new looks as the series. So the Archies and Jugman was based on the early 2000 series Archie's Weird Mysteries. That's where this is coming from, basically. So Archie's Weird Mysteries, which was a series that ran in the early 2000s there, or from 99 to 2000. But the movie that was brought out from it, produced by Deke Entertainment, was the Archies and Jugman. So on this date in 2002, 20 years ago today, the Deke produced the Archies and Jugman premiered on this date back in 2002. So with that, move on to the next piece of Nietzsche history, going back 15 years ago today. On this day, 15 years ago today, from the Manhattan Center in New York City. Ring of Honor held its night 2 of its Glory by Honor 6 event. The main event featured Mitsuharu Misawa defending the GHC Heavyweight Championship against Kenta. Let's see. That was one of the main events. The other main event, of course, saw the Briscoe brothers defeat the Age of the Fall in a street fight after having an earlier match and in a double disqualification, lasting only 1 minute. Among some of the other featured matches on the night include Austin Aries defeating Chris Hero, the No Remorse Corps of Roderick Strong, Davey Richards, and Rocky Romero defeating the Vulture Squad of Jack Evans, Ruckus, and Jigsaw. Bryan Danielson losing by disqualification to Takeshi Morishima. Let's see. Claudio Castagnoli defeated Naomichi Marufuji. Austin Aries had wrestled twice that night, defeating Shane Hagedorn in a minute 12, and then later on coming back later in the night to defeat Chris Hero, who had sweet and sour in his court. Hero also wrestled twice, defeating El Generico before losing to Austin Aries later. El Generico, who everybody would know today as Sami Zayn in the WWE. Let's see. And that's pretty much the majority of that. So on this date, 15 years ago today, night 2 of Glory by Honor 6 took place from the Manhattan Center in New York City. Now, 2007 was just so nice. We're going to hit it twice. So, yeah, for you here, we're going to. Also on this date back in 2007, 15 years ago today, the second season of Mega Man Star Force, Rockman Tribe, debuted on this date back in 2007. On this date in 2007 on TV Tokyo, Z-Bex's Mega Man Star Force Rockman Tribe debuted on TV Tokyo in 2007. So we have one more piece of each to go to before we close everything out here. And on this date in 2010, on this date in 2010, the 75th issue of Invincible from Image Comics went on sale on this date. Had 3 stories in it, one featuring Invincible and a couple others, Science Dog and The Jackal Chapter 5. It sold for $5.99 and was 48 pages. On this date, back in 2010, the 75th issue of Invincible went on sale from Image Comics. So there you go. That's all we have for you guys tonight. I thank everybody for being here. I hope see everybody back tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, of course, we'll have the Tomoloviches in as co-hosts as we look back to the historical comic retrospect, looking back to 1939. We're continuing our look to June 1939. We look over Fiction House publications, most notably Jumbo Comics. I thank everybody for being here. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.